Good morning, everyone, and welcome. Whether you are beginning your day or ending it as you watch this, let us always begin and end all things in the name of Jesus. Following will be from Tuesday, February 10th, 2004 at 4:06 in the morning, and it's titled The Hospital Window. And if you look for this online, I believe it's still a story that's circulated. And this was about 20 years ago when this email was sent. Two men, both seriously ill, occupied the same hospital room. One man was allowed to sit up in his bed for an hour each afternoon to help drain the fluid from his lungs. His bed was next to the room's only window. The other man had to spend all his time flat on his back. The men talked for hours on end. They spoke of their wives and families, their homes, their jobs, their involvement in the military service, where they had been on vacation, and so on. Every afternoon when the man in the bed by the window could sit up, he would pass the time by describing to his roommate all the things he could see outside the window. The man in the other bed began to live for those 1-hour periods, where his world would be broadened and enlivened by all the activity and color of the outside world. The window overlooked a park with a lovely lake. Ducks and swans played on the water while children sailed their model boats. Young lovers walked arm in arm amidst flowers of every color, and a fine view of the city skyline could be seen in the distance. As the man by the window described all this in exquisite detail, the man on the other side of the room would close his eyes and imagine the picturesque scene. One warm afternoon, the man by the window described a parade passing by. Although the other man couldn't hear the band, he could see it. In his mind's eye, as the gentleman by the window portrayed it with descriptive words. Days and weeks passed. One morning, the day nurse arrived to bring water for their baths, only to find the lifeless body of the man by the window, who had died peacefully in his sleep. She was saddened and called the hospital attendants to take away the body. As soon as it seemed appropriate, the other man asked if he could be moved next to the window. The nurse was happy to make the switch, and after making sure he was comfortable, she left him alone. Slowly, painfully, he propped himself up on one elbow to take his first look at the real outside world. He strained to slowly turn to look out the window beside the bed. It faced a blank wall. The man asked the nurse what could have compelled his deceased roommate, who had described such wonderful things outside his window. The nurse responded that the man was blind and could not even see the wall. Following is from Ephesians chapter 3, verse 14 through 19, and it's described as a prayer for a deeper faith. This is the reason why I kneel in prayer before the Father, from whom every family in heaven and on earth takes its name. I ask that from the riches of his glory he may grant through his Spirit that you may be strengthened with power in your inner being, and that Christ may dwell in your hearts through faith. And I pray that, rooted and grounded in love, you may have the power to comprehend with all the saints its breadth and length and height and depth, and know Christ's love even though it is beyond knowledge, so that you may be filled with all the fullness of God. Our faith depends on our inner sight, on our ability to believe things we cannot see. Just like the two men in the hospital room, we too must see with our mind's eye, the eyes of our heart, not with the eyes on the front of our face. In John chapter 3, verse 12, If I tell you about earthly things and you do not believe, how will you believe when I speak to you about heavenly things? And it's true, God is not bound by the laws of physics. He appeared before the disciples even though the doors were locked. He entered the room. In John chapter 20, verse 28 to 30, Jesus appeared in their locked room and showed his hands to Thomas and said, "Here, put your finger in the wounds in my hand. Put your hand in the hole in my side." Thomas exclaimed, "My Lord and my God." Then Jesus said to him, "You have come to believe because you have seen me. Blessed are those who have not seen and yet come to believe." And my friends, that is you and that is me. For we have come to believe, even though we have not seen with our eyes, but we do see with the eyes of our heart. Let's take a moment during this day to ask God to enlighten our souls so that we may better see with our hearts and understand with our minds, and ultimately growing deeper in our faith in Jesus Christ. God bless you this day. May there be peace in your families and in your lives. May God continue to bless us with these daily meetings, and may we meet again tomorrow.